Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yep.
Right.
Hello.
Hello. Well, thank you for joining me during your lunchtime. If you can turn on the camera, please feel free to do so. So it kind of help me to gauge your reaction and then whether I'm just talking to the wall or not. So, all right. Well, since this is about time management, I will start on time. Then let me share my screen. So, hello everyone. My name is Sugyong Seo. I work at SIU Springfield School of Medicine. So I hold many different titles, but everything that I do is related to how to tap into the potential of people and organization. So I do that through leadership development, and then also the organizational change and transformation. So right now, I am working at the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Office, as well as Center for Human and Organizational Potential. So with that, I am honored to talk with you about how to work smarter. So initially, I was asked to just talk about something to do with wellness. And without just proper time management and to get a grip on how to use our time, just burnout is inevitable over time. And then also, what are some of the strategies for our self-care in terms of like managing our time and how to prioritize it? So those are some of the key objectives that I'm going to talk about. I'm hearing some echo, so if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. And then I will pay attention to chat as much as I can. If I miss any chat, either Penny or Cassandra or other community members, please help me to just pay attention to those chats if I'm not paying, I missed some of the conversations. So I hope this section will be pretty interactive. So I'm going to talk about, what it means to be productive first, and then how to apply some of the work smarter principles. I'll share one key principle. So this is something to chew on. And then the meat of today's session is going to be some of the popular time management tactics and how we can use it to our own to-do list. And the last but not least, it's important to create a self-care plan. So it's not necessarily like I tell you what to do, but you come up with what you want to do, and then but how we are going to incorporate in our day-to-day lives. So with that, I want you to type your answers in the chat. I want to have a quick check-in. So how would you describe your emotion in one word around time management? Yeah, thank you. I see a range of emotions. Something's organized, some overwhelming.
I am another blue card.
And then scattered, concerned, hopeful, organized, scattered. Well, thank you so much. The next check-in question is, what do you use to manage your tasks right now? It can be like, I try to remember, like write down on my palm, sticky notes, calendar. Yeah, lots of calendar, sticky notes, phone alarms, how to prioritize, reminders, combination of all those things. Yeah, Outlook, someone said OneNote. I use OneNote too. Yeah. So it looks like everyone uses some sort of technology, right? At least it's a pen and paper calendar or Outlook calendar, planner. Someone uses a spreadsheet, list, some sort of list. That's great to know. And then what do you hope to get out of this session? Some new skills and strategies. How to be more proactive. Yeah. Yes. Majority of you guys wanted to apply some new skills and strategies, and then how to prioritize your tasks so that you can better use your time. So, yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'll share some of the tools too. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, for sharing those things. So I hope the first section is about, let's think about time wasters and then being productive first, because without knowing where our time goes first, it's hard to prioritize and then try to apply our new tips. So when it comes to time management, and then it's very similar to money management, although we may not think close together, because time and money are both limited.
Okay, I'm
And
not.
then we tend to put more time and energy and effort on those things that matter to me or matter to us, right? We spend more time and more money on those things that we value. So with that, let's think about just like a budget for our money. We need to know where time goes and then where are some of the areas that we waste a lot of it. So that when we save those wasters, and then we can use those times in a more strategic ways and wisely, right? So these are some of the time wasters, common time wasters. So it's a miscommunicated tasks. Like I didn't know that I was supposed to be doing, or two people thought that they were both doing the same thing, or there's some unclear communications that created either not getting things done or it led to duplicated work. Distractions. It's really hard for me too. So distractions around the notifications, emails, and then just to pop in from your colleagues, and the multitasking. So research is shown over and over that if we are not actually multitasking, our brain cannot really think in a we cannot engage two different tasks at the same time. So what we are doing is constantly going back and forth, just task switching. It's not multitasking. So because of that, let's say we are listening to this session and then trying to check emails, and then I miss some of those things that the speaker is saying, or I'm not really fully engaged in the email responses. So it's going back and forth. So it just becomes it takes actually longer than just doing one thing at a time. So this is something that I need to work on as well. And then tasks in goal associations. So we are doing a lot of busy work, but it doesn't really add up to a greater impact. And the non-value added tasks. So it's similar in that sense as well. The hijacked time is you kind of planned out your day, but then your day got hijacked, responding to emergencies of other people, and then socializing and then drop-in visitors. I mean, we all need that. But then, sometimes we're just too polite and then not saying that there's something that I need to work on. And then the 5-minute check-in sometimes goes on and on. And then, like I said, multitasking is basically task switches and then incomplete information. It goes back to the miscommunicated tasks. So you're just working on some reports, let's say, and then realize that, oh, this person's information is missing. And then you're just trying to hunt those things down, and then ended up taking way more time than you planned to. So like your morning goes away. So I want to kind of want you to think about your time wasters or hijacked time. And then what's kind of one of the main culprit of your time wasters? Could you type in chat? Task switching. Yeah. For mine, it's distractions. Oh, unfocused meeting. Yes, that's something to do with like you feel non-value added task. Always thinking the emergency is like something that we have to do it now. Yeah, some of the halo messages that shouldn't be in halos. Yeah, thank you for sharing those things. So going back to like our baseline, it's important to kind of think about how many hours a day that I spend on these like time suckers, the distractions. Like I heard the term time confettis, 5 minutes just checking on my notification, or 5 minutes checking on social media, 10 minutes talking about the like going on and on about the weather. It just adds up, but then it just doesn't end it up to be something that's impactful. So it's like a confetti, it's like everywhere. So how much time do you think you kind of spend on those distractions? You don't have to type in, just to think about in your head. Yeah. Before we move on. So we always need to know the baseline before we are just tackling on some of the things, because it'll be also our motivation. Oh my goodness, it's like more than 30 minutes. Like it's actually quite a bit of a time that it gets like wasted. And then having that realization is going to be helpful. But also let's think about what is the productivity? Because doing multiple tasks at once or doing many tasks. Now, do you feel really fulfilled after tackling 75 emails at the end of the day? Maybe not. But how about you gave a pretty impactful report, or had a presentation, or finished some of the tasks that's been like dragging entire department, and then you really helped to finish it. Those made you feel really productive, and then you felt like, oh, okay, I contributed to something. Why is that? Because according to many different time research and the happiness research, it says we feel really productive when there's a personal internal meaning plus the impact of your work you can see externally. When it's combined, you feel really productive. So let's just redefine what is productive, because it's not just going through 20 items on your to-do list, but then like, let's focus and then see what's my strengths, and then what the team or department needs from me, and then how we can just achieve the goals together. So I'm going to introduce several books during this meeting. The first one is Great at Work. So I am the director of Accelerate Leadership Development Program at SIU School of Medicine. And then this is one of the books, one of 6 books that we introduced to these participants. So the key concept that a lot of people really resonated, and then said that this is like really life-changing when it comes to time management, is this concept, do less and obsess. This is not about like, okay, trying to figure out how I can do the least amount of work and get away with it. But this is more about like, okay, what are my top 3 skills that I contribute, or like just limited to very few? And then how you are going to make an impact through that. So it takes time. So a couple of years ago, I started like noticing that I said yes to too many things. And so around the time that I was introduced to this book, and then I was thinking, okay, I'm good at creating creative curriculum, and I am good at like helping people go through strategic planning. And so like I named a couple of things, and then like I realized, okay, anything that really helps the organization or individual just to realize their potential, I mean, that's something, the work that I'm going to do. So like when it comes to different committees, if I could have an option, I try to say no, or just let my desire known to my team members. So it took a few years to kind of redesign my work more of this way, but like in knowing and realizing what I do really well, what team needs, and then how I can make an impact. Knowing this really was very helpful for me. So I want you to kind of give yourself about a minute to think about just a couple different things in terms of your strengths. It can be very specific skills, like I am the Excel wizard, or it could be something like, when people kind of ramble, I summarize it really well for clarity. So it could be very soft skills, or when people are at distress, I provide more of a counselor type of a role for the team. And then the second thing that I want you to think about is whether your strengths kind of matches with your job descriptions and your role. Yeah. And then if that's the case, what's kind of a percentage that you are using these skills? Like 5%, 50%? I mean, work is work, so we'll always have like 20-30% of admin work or the meetings or things that we are obligated to do it. But then if your strength area utilization is, let's say, less than 10%, how can you improve or increase those areas? So this is a kind of ongoing thing that you need to think about, and then to meet with your supervisor or other peers to bounce some ideas around it. But I just wanted to plant some seeds around like do less and obsess. So I realized that the more I learned about time management and then project management, it's a lot to do with the psychology. So before just adding all the skills, I just kind of wanted you to look at the just big picture. All right. Any questions or comments so far before we move to the more of the technical things? Let me see any chat. Oh, can we have the slides? Yeah, this is recorded, so yes. All right. So I'm going to introduce you, a few different, very popular time management tactics. The first one is from Brian Tracy, Eat the Frog. So the whole book is basically talking about, stop procrastinating and then do the things that matters the most, or just the one that you procrastinate the most, to probably do that first. But what I really liked about the book is the ABCDE method. So before we jump in, I will give you about 2-3 minutes to, this is called a brain dump. all the to-do list on either the document, if you are more of a typer, just type it, or pen and paper, write it down. So it could be, let me see, could be personal to-do list, or something that you have to do today versus next couple months, someday maybe, whatever that comes into your head, just kind of write it down for the next 2 minutes. Yeah, or you can refer to your sticky notes in front of you. If you can come up with about 10 plus, about 10-ish items, that would be good. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share mine and then see how ABCDE method works. So A item is something that's most important task that you must do, and then otherwise there will be negative consequences. Like, for example, me forget to show up for this meeting. It's going to more than embarrassing, right? Think about something that only you can do, or something that you are hired to do. So it's kind of your main task, or it's very like high importance and then the emergency kind of a type of work. B item, something that you need to do as part of your job, like showing up at like a staff meeting or department meeting, doing your timesheets on time and things like that. C item, nice thing to do. If you don't do it, there's no consequences. Like as a department, like maybe we should have a like a department to retreat an event. Maybe we should have like happy hour, or I need to call my colleague to see how he or she's doing. And D item is something that you should delegate. From my experience teaching a lot of leaders, it's something that seems to be even harder for high-performing female. I also struggle with this. So, we'll talk about what are some of the creative ways to delegate. And the E item is something to eliminate. So this is my list. I did a brain dump while I was making this presentation a couple months ago. And then this is like something that I need to write an article. I am the principal investigator, so I need to kind of work on it. So B items are something that I need to do as part of my job. C item, there is an international meeting that I could just write a proposal, but if I don't do it, there's no negative consequences. It's more for my professional fulfillment. Buy curtains for the bedroom. I've been like thinking about just changing up some of the interior decoration items. So I mean, even if I don't do it, it's no big deal. Yeah, the last item, check a kid's shoe size and organize and donate their shoes. If it doesn't fit, I put D because I realized that, you know what, if I can delegate to my kids and then they can tell me. So this is kind of my way of doing it. Why don't you just give your, look at your list and then see how you can apply A, B, C, D, E on your list.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, there's a good question about how can we delegate things if we don't have anyone reporting to us. So it's a delegation in a different ways. Like delegation is like if it's a teamwork that we work together, then like, and then you are doing it all by yourself. And then think like that, or if you can have a collaborators and then have a similar role. So in case you're sick, there's another person kind of backs up. So it's more about, think about collaboration. And then also see if it's like there's some area that you're trying to control these things, like, oh, I want things to it in my way. And therefore, I just don't want to just work with other people. So recently I had to work with, I need to organize this graduation ceremony, but I was out of town for meetings in last week. And so if I wanted to control that kind of a ceremony planning part, and then it would just hold another week, push it another week, right? But then I have other co-instructors, and then I have office manager who can really help with the logistics. So in my case, I was fortunate that I trusted that they are going to do something about it, and that actually came out really great in terms of a planning. So I realized that, well, sometimes I'm just trying to hold on to what I wanted to control, and then I need to let go. So it's partially thinking creatively and then creating some more of accountability and partnership with other people in the same department, or psychologically check and see like if there's anything that you want to control and that may hinder from delegating your tasks. Any other questions? Okay, so we have a couple more tactics to kind of apply. So now it's an urgency and importance matrix. It's a pretty common, it's a classic one. So basically like if any task is important and urgent, let's do it now. If it's important and then not urgent, then we have to plan. Otherwise, all this urgent, important task will push those things down. And if it's not important to you, but it's urgent matter to the department or team, then just find the right person to do it. And then if it's not urgent and then not important, but we keep talking about it, then let's eliminate those things. So the things that we really have a hard time is to plan those tasks that are important, but not urgent. So let's look at your list again, and then see if you find anything that's important but not urgent. Then why don't you give a timeline when you want to just finish that task? And then underline that so that you can see it. I added by curtain for the bedroom and hang them by February, at the end of February. Yeah, I'm being honest here on all C items that I kind of worked on the other things, but update my CV hasn't happened. So I need to give my internal deadline and then put some accountability around it. But I also noticed that a lot of my C items are also the things that's important but not urgent. So any other things that you noticed about this important but not urgent? So one tactic that you can do is create your own deadline, but then put some more pressure. So research, coaching, credential requirement. I wanted to start a new program in April. So before I register, I wanted to kind of see if this is worthwhile for me to pursue. So it kind of helped me because there's like a registration, whether I'm going to do it or not. So it kind of pushed me. Sometimes, for my personal to-do list, spring cleaning, and then there's guests coming. So it kind of gives my own internal deadline and things like that. So let's work on this not urgent and important by planning and then adding accountability. Let's see the chat. Yeah, they become urgent if we ignore them. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it does. Or team performance goes down. Like some of the things that I often do for SIU School of Medicine is doing strategic planning for different departments. This is important, but then everyone's busy, right? So we plan in a couple months in advance. They invited me, so they kind of committed to do it for a few hours. And then I really help them to use our time wisely with like some action plan. So, just work with another department or different people that helps you to stick to your plan. Yes, what happens when I treat everything with urgency, I don't want to procrastinate. We're just going down to another thing. Maybe a couple of different techniques will be helpful for you. So getting things done has been the bestseller in time management for a couple of decades. Its process is like what we've been doing already. So to capture all your to-do items, it doesn't matter whether it's a pen and paper, Post-it, or whatever the system that's been working for you, capture it. So some of the common theme that's been going on when it comes to time management world is second brain. So you create let's use our brain to connect and create more creative ideas and problem solving. But then when it comes, I need to remember so-and-so's birthday. I need to remind myself to do this and that, those tasks that we can kind of delegate to technology. So, let's not carry all those things and then create more cognitive overload. So capture all your to-do items and then get it out of your head. Second thing is process. Well, is it actionable or is it more of a reference? If it's actionable, the second question that we need to ask is, can you do it in less than 2 minutes? I usually give myself 5 minutes and then organize it. So if it's something that you cannot do in 2 to 5 minutes, then you have to make it into tiny little project. So it could be grant proposal, it could be kid's birthday party or event planning. And then also put some due date. Another thing they talk about is context. Is it all email? Is it all phone calls? So instead of switching between email, phone call, meeting, and then writing a report, just do all the phone calls in like a blocked time. So it's more efficient if you kind of organize by context. Or if you're working on multiple projects, also do it by context, by like project A versus B and C, rather than jumping back and forth, because it's really confusing. And then you are using your brain power so much more. So I like to use the analogy of, smartphone with so many apps are opening. Have you noticed that once some of the apps have background refresh or GPS function, and then it's been running in the background, the battery drains so much quicker and faster. Same thing with our brain. There's so much we can do, just before you feel like it, total brain fart. I couldn't really think of any better words. Oops, it's getting recorded, but oh well. Yeah, so think about your brain in that sense. And then review your action items regularly. And then just big loop. You go and then you capture your to-do items, process and organize, and then review what's been done, what needs to be go up and down. Okay. So why don't you look at your list again and then put star next to those things that you can get done in 5 minutes. And then while you're doing that, I'm gonna answer Todd's question about open door policy. So we kind of have a unwritten open door policy, but then I don't know about your team, but our team, just depending on the degree of the door that's open, like of course, when we are having like a Zoom meeting or something, that we close it, but then we crack open about like 10 degree. And then when I kind of need to focus on something, and then we open about like 30 degree when it's more of inviting. So I don't know if that kind of helps. And then if it open door policy really is not helping to be productive, it's worthwhile just asking other people's thoughts as a team. You know. All right. Did you guys have anything that you could be doing in under 5 minutes? Or is it like all ginormous project? Yeah, if it's a big project, try to just file papers, like a quick email. Yeah. All right, then one more thing in terms of tactic is I really like this book, Make Time. So these books are written by software developers, so they were involved in the Google and the YouTube development in early years. So they kind of use their tech way of focus, test, and then like we call it sprint. I used to be in the IT consulting as well. So we called sprint because like during the sprint time, why am I not good? We really focus on those things and then not having like unnecessary meetings and things like that. So it talked a lot about many different time management tips. They also have a resource site. So when you type like it Make Time resource, and then you will find the link there with like tons of free resources of time management tips. But the best thing that I really liked, and a lot of people tend to use when we feel like overwhelming, like everything's urgent, right? Everything seems A items. I need to do everything. No one to delegate, and no one's reporting to me. Like, what am I gonna do? Then you find your highlights. And so think about your day at the end of the day, and then, okay, if you're going to play your highlight reel, what would it be? So instead of doing that in the morning, like as you start your day, looking at your to-do list, what will make your highlight? And going back to your productivity definition, like it's something that you make impact, and then something personally meaningful. So it can be just a milestone of any project. So finish this presentation or just have a good draft of whatever. And then something to do with your self-care, workout at the gym, and then just something to do with the connection. Like I had a really good conversation with my colleague, or like I finally talked to my mom after a couple of weeks or whatever. And then for me, I have 2 younger kids, so it's like reading books with them and watching even a TV show for 30 minutes. It's been really good. So look at your list and see if you have any self-care items on your list. If not, could you add at least one self-care activities? Okay, so this is kind of my highlight. So if I kind of finish another round of write the Medit portal article, so it's not done, it was just long process. But before the meeting, I wanted to update my portion. So that's something that I always tend to procrastinate because I overthink, and then I feel like my writing is not good enough. So that was my highlight. And then I didn't really have self-care items. So watch a TV show with my girls on the couch. They always want to do that. And then I do just kind of clean up the kitchen after dinner during the time. But once I join, actually, I enjoy watching the show. And then prayer and gratitude journal, when I do it, it just takes 5 minutes at the end of the day that really change my mood. But I don't do that very often. So I just put those things in my highlight. Does anyone want to share your highlight on the chat? Jim? Yeah. Some of the highlight doesn't have to be like getting a massage or, you know, dedicate yourself for like 2 hours of working out session. Like sometimes walking the dog and then drink tea, gardening. Those things are important. Ride a bike, yoga, or meal prep. Yeah, that's part of a big time management tip that I aspire to do, but I don't know. I don't really stick to it. And I didn't really share disclosure in the beginning, but I'm not necessarily expert at applying all these things. I know all these things because growing up, I was a very, very forgetful child. So if I didn't have any systems, then I waste a whole lot of time and energy, and then got in trouble for not doing things that was important. So it was more of lifelong kind of a lesson and research that I've done over the years. So it's kind of irony that I'm still kind of struggling with some of these areas, but then, you know, if you continue to work on it, you kind of become known for expert. So anyway, that's kind of a fun story. Yeah. So thank you for sharing your highlights. Many of them are related to self-care. But before I mention some of those things, let me show you. This is a before list, and this is the after list, right? So I can kind of focus on, all right, today I'm going to write this Medit portal article. So I would look at my calendar. So Amelia was asking, you know, what is the better, just breaking it down to small tasks so that you won't be feeling overwhelmed versus like block your time so that you're not going to be like distracted by little tasks. So it really depends on your to-do list today. So this is the kind of how I would do it. So at work, I would look at my calendar and see where the meetings are. And then if those meetings, if I need to prepare, then I just usually block 30 minutes before the meeting. And then I want at least an hour and a half to work on this article, because at 30 minutes, I'm thinking about like, you know, how to open the file, how I should like, you know, procrastinate. Like I need to mentally prepare to really tackle this task. So I needed some time, right? Then I'll try to figure out best time that I work, which is like for me mid-afternoon. So I try to do that. But if I don't have time, then I will just try to find a block time. And then email, I try to do it either first thing in the morning, but try not to look at all the time. Just to check it every even 30 minutes to an hour. I don't do like, my colleague only checks twice day. But then her job really allows that in some ways. And then she said that's been one of the biggest
Can I help you?
gain when it comes to time management. But like
Hey, how are
I
you?
said, you just kind of look at your to-do list and then see if
Oh, okay.
you might have a
Language
whole bunch of
stories.
little tasks to tackle. Or you have like one big project that you need to focus.
Okay.
So any other questions
It's
on
fine.
this?
It's not like he's here anyways.
Um,
He is, I mean, it's been submitted. We're waiting on the state.
Okay. Okie
Okay.
dokie. So we can go
Right.
on to the self-care part. So when I use the charging station concept, it was really well received.
No, I didn't want to.
I
mention
used
I was-
about, oh, I
what we
hear
usually-
some people's side conversation. Please
6:26.
mute.
So the last 1 month.
I think
Otherwise,
you
wait
as
for
the organizer might be able to mute her.
2 weeks.
Uh, I don't know
actually,
where it's
moving
coming
forward.
from.
Under
Sorry.
participants, maybe, I'm
it's-
not
it's-
sure.
It's E. Kohler.
Yeah,
E. Kohler is the one. E. Kohler, can you mute yourself, please?
Okay.
Okay.
I had no
Miss-
idea how many of you joined, so now I feel a little bit intimidated.
Miss E. Kohler, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
Great.
let's go on.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So the charging station, well, I call it charging station because, like I said,
Excuse me, Dr. Sue.
yes,
E. Kohler, can you mute yourself, please?
is it caller? I'm trying to look at,
Kohler, E. Koehler. Can you mute yourself?
E, okay.
She did. Good.
Okay,
Go
all
ahead, Dr.
right,
Sue.
perfect, thank you. Now I'm just trying to move all these chat boxes, okay. So I talked about us being more of a battery, the mental energy and the physical energy we drain as time goes on, but then, you know, we have to charge ourselves. So if we don't do it regularly, then, you know, burnout happens, right? So how can we do that? It's pretty simple. Ask yourself what activities give you energy or makes you smile, and then just nourish your body. And then create a list of things that charges you. Penny, do you mind sharing the document about my charging station activities through chat? Yes. So if you can download those, basically, you know, create a list. You can be like, what charges your mind? It can be garden or walking the dog, just having a short walk with your spouse or loved ones. For me, these are some of the things that helps me to just charge my mind and body and spirit. So it doesn't have to be long. And then it doesn't have to be like everyday thing, but you sprinkle those things, because instead of having time wasters, what are some of the ways that can we add these things in your daily lives? Something that connects you to other people or connects within yourself or connects to the greater like being. If you're a spiritual person, those are the things that oftentimes charges our mind, body, and spirit. I've been charging too much with the chocolate ice cream and then other sweets, so I need to work on the other side of more healthier version of it. But no, I'm not really good with the concert level of a ukulele and piano, but I like to sing with my kids. And then during COVID, I learned how to play ukulele. through some YouTube videos. So that was fun. And this makes me realize that I haven't done it for a long time. Yeah, but I did Pilates this morning, so that was good. So I'll give you another minute to write down your charging station. All right. I think some of you may recognize that your highlights are also your charging station items. If you feel comfortable, could you share some of your charging station items? Yeah, feel free to type your charging station items. Yeah. For me, professionally, learning new things charges me. So feel free to add something that charges you at work as well. Yeah, grandkids, I heard that's the best. Good book. Listen to music. Yeah. New ink pen. Yes, I love good stationery items too. Yay. Just reading this makes me happy. Yeah, gotcha. Well, thank you so much for sharing these. So as you can see, we can do this pretty easily. It's a lot of those things don't cost, like playing with your dog or kids, or, hanging out with your friends and checking in with your family. So let's just be more mindful of these are our highlights. These are the things and then activities that charge us. And so, instead of like doing all the things that drain us, and then how can we reduce our distractions and then do more of these? So here are some of the how to build the self-care habits. It's just any habits, actually. It's adapted from Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So you have to have some of the cue. It could be post-it notes. It could be like if you want to exercise, you have a gym bag ready to go, or put it in the trunk, or yoga mat right next to your bed, in my case. And the routines, to create a routine, like if you are trying to do it different things each time, and then it's more effort in your brain. So, think about your routine, like a morning routine, and then can you just add it to it? So physical, mental, or emotional response of a routine is a lot more efficient. So try to have that routine when you are building new habit. So maybe it could be, text to your family member that's not living anywhere near every Friday evening, like before dinner or something like that. And the morning routine, it would be like I will do 10-minute yoga stretch while kids are eating breakfast. And the reward, it can be internal or external. Internal would be like, I feel good. I feel much more awake after 10-minute stretch when I do it. But then it could be something like, okay, I finished really tough paper. I'm gonna hang out with my friends over wine or a nice dinner or something like that. So just having cue, routine, and then reward, especially like thinking about the internal reward, it's a feeling that you're charged, more energized, and then you feel loved and valued. And then this charging station activity can be done with your team members, like what charges you at work. So limit the setting more of the work setting, and then like what kind of drains you, and then how we can do more of the things that charges. And then also be mindful of the people who are more introvert versus extroverted people, because their way of charging, I learned in a hard way because my two daughters are very like opposite end of each other. And then they charge very differently. And then really knowing how they like to thrive and then enjoy each other can be different. It's like, team meetings or having happy hour all the time may not be the best for some of your team members. So, figuring out through charging station has been also a very fun way for team building too. So with that, we have about 4 minutes left. I will answer any questions that I haven't had chance to. You can use chat or unmute yourself. Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, then I have a question for you. So which tip are you going to use? Just pick one. I shared a lot. Make your own deadline. Delegate. Charging station. Yeah. Self-care, yep. Yeah, charging station, I just used it once in my presentation a couple of years ago, and then that was a big hit. So I realized that, you know what, self-care is part of a big time management. So now I incorporated all my time management presentations. So I encourage you to continue to do this brain dump, like write down everything that you think you need to do, and then sort out using one of these methods. Don't try to use all of them at once, but then one thing that really resonate with you today, try to use it one consistently for a couple of weeks and then see, what happens, and then just add one or more using this like a cue, routine, and reward tip. Well, thank you so much. And then let me know if you have any other questions via email. I'm going to type my email. So, and then we have a Center for Human and Organizational Potential as part of SIU School of Medicine. So,
Dr. Sue, can I interrupt you for a second?
yeah, sure.
On behalf of the committee, we want to thank you for doing this today. I know you weren't able, we discussed this in February and you put this presentation together in a couple of months. So we do appreciate you. And so thank you very, very much. I personally want to say, I think this is not just beneficial for staff. I think it should be beneficial. It's beneficial for others. And I would love for you to, if you have a presentation, because we always think about our students, but I think our students need a presentation like this, because I think this puts in a different perspective than what we've done before. Our students need to see this time management skill, and the books that you've talked about and the skills that you've talked about would be beneficial for our students as well, to help them. and even new staff. I looked at the comment, young person said that they were a brand new person, a brand new staff member, and they appreciate this is happening. But I think this could be an ongoing thing after August, when we bring in new people. Some people come in like I did, never worked at a university before, and they are just, this is their first job or their second job, whatever. But I think this could be an ongoing thing. So I hope that your organization could help continue this training further down the line.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah. I'm glad it resonated well with you. And then, yeah, I will talk with Dr. Hengel and then some other people at C-Hub and then SIU Systems and then see what's the best way to go about this, your idea. Thank you.
Well, we got Dr. Gups up on here, so we can make this happen.
Sure, we'll do it, Todd. We'll share it with the recording with the student committee, and we can certainly work on that.
And also, are we going to make sure, and I know Penny's on the call, can we make sure this recording is available to all the leaders on the committee, that we can share this with our constituency?
Got it. We'll do that.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.